Hello everybody, I'm Phil Goss, president of US ARK, coming to you live from Tinley Park, NARBC. If you don't know, US ARK fights for your rights to keep reptiles and amphibians as pets, but don't just take my word for it.
Let's just find out what some people that are within the industry think about US ARK. So you're here vending at Tinley Park. How important is US ARK?
US ARK is one of the most important things to us. They give us the ability to continue to do what we're doing, and it's just a big deal to us, and we support them and everything that they're doing.
US ARK is important to Reptile Keepers Day because everyone in this building at this show is dependent upon US ARK. The future of our hobby depends upon US ARK. So it's important now that we understand what their role is, why they're important, and find ways to donate to keep them strong.
We're getting our rights stripped away slowly and surely, and it's going to hit everybody eventually. US ARK is the #1 priority right now. If you have a leopard gecko, even if you have like a beta fish, you got to be part of this because they are fighting for everybody every day. You can't thank them enough. 100% the #1 priority as far as this entire thing goes, every time.
US ARK does a lot for me, but I think the most important part is helping me be allowed to keep the animals that I love and the animals that I work with. I think there's such a misconception about these animals to people who don't keep them and don't work with them. They're vilified, they're like misunderstood, people are afraid of them, and helping to spread that knowledge and spread that understanding so that we can have better, more appropriate legislation and we can be allowed to keep these animals and work with them.
I care a lot about US ARK because my business is my livelihood, and without US ARK, we would not be able to be here today vending, being able to breed, ship our animals. So thank you, US ARK. We're happy that we have you.
They help with a good cause. Obviously, a lot of people are trying to take our animals away from us, and they're trying to take away what people consider their livelihood, and like people have a really big passion for these animals, and we're just trying to make sure they don't take it away from us.
Everybody should donate to US ARK. They fight for our rights. They fight for the right to keep these reptiles. If you love this hobby, if you love reptiles, even fish, now it's going into fish, you need to support US ARK.
US ARK support the community. You know, like for example, this is my hobby and as well my business, you know. So without US ARK, you know, how can we able to fight for my rights?
Yes.
Because I'm doing this business, you know, paying taxes, you know, keeping my reptiles in a good conditions. So I'm not what I'm saying. I'm doing a contribution to the community, and US ARK do it for me.
We take on a lot of rescues. I think it's just a really important cause for our field, really.
They're the people who hire the lawyers to fight against the laws that keep popping up, or even just the little clauses that get slipped into the laws that are proposed that could put our hobby in danger. So we really need to support these guys so they have the money to do what they need to do.
My daughter over here enjoys the reptiles. And without US ARK, that future for her is in jeopardy.
Well, for one, I say that's our future, right? We need to be able to generate a sustainable culture of reptile and amphibian enthusiasts, for starters. I've been doing the educational spiel for close to 30 years, and I think what US ARK is doing is helping us get the education out, the right information out to the right audiences to be able to support what we all believe, what we all know, and what we love.
Weird animals are the ones that are misunderstood in the wild. So if we can better keep them in captivity, we'll have a better appreciation for these animals in the wild, and therefore they'll be more likely to be conserved rather than killed unnecessarily. US ARK is the organization that's fighting for our rights and ability to keep these exotic animals as pets.
There's a lot of people that are trying to bring down the ability to keep reptiles. What US ARK is doing and what we're funding them to do by donating is fighting for our rights to keep reptiles.
US ARK is going to be the one thing that keeps this community, first of all, together and keeps the government off of our asses and allow us to continue to do what we love and make a great living doing it. I mean, I've been very blessed to be able to do what I do for a living, and I want to continue doing this and have new people experience this. And US ARK is going to be the only way we can continue to do this.
The US ARK allows us to keep the animals, to get us excited, to get us to experience nature in the world that we don't get to see inside our own house. We would lose all of that wonder, all of that knowledge, all of that interaction, all of that stuff that makes you excited when you see them. That scares the crap out of me.
They help support our hobby. They help support our customers.
At the end of the day, US ARK is doing one of the greatest things they can for this country, and it's keeping our legal rights to keep these animals so we can teach our children something.
Because if we're not organized, other people will be, and we will lose our rights. For a lot of us, US ARK is a huge foothold in being able to keep our rights as animal keepers, and it means the absolute world to us because a lot of our lives revolve around these animals. So we want nothing more than to be able to help US ARK in achieving all of their goals so that we can do what we love for a living. Without US ARK, none of this exists, and that is why it is incredibly important for all of us to be here to do that.
This is what I do for a living, and as long as I support them, I feel like I'll be able to do that. They'll keep fighting for me.
Definitely protects us. It's kind of has our backs, legally for a lot of things that would come our way with people that don't understand or, have a negative view of our hobby and would like to see it not be a hobby.
But without US ARK, we wouldn't be able to bring these big snakes to shows and educate people.
Fighting for our rights, they're the only ones fighting for us. So we got to support them. We got to back them 110%. We got nobody else.
For me, USARK definitely, and for everyone else, protects our rights to own reptiles. And without them, we could potentially not have reptiles. And it'll also help protect a lot of reptiles that we import and help establish a captive population of, because a lot of reptiles, their environment is being destroyed, and one of their only chances of survival is being produced in captivity. And if we can't keep them in captivity, then that can't happen anymore. So if you guys want to do what you can to protect not only your right, but also my right and other breeders and hobbyists' rights to keep reptiles, make sure to check out USARK, support them, join their newsletter, and donate if you can.
Not only do we get to keep what we have, but the future generations get to enjoy what we've had. And we're all trying to make the animals better for everybody in our past. I mean, I think one of the best things that all of us can hope for is when we're either out of this or we leave, people remember us for the work we've done and to help them get to where they're at.
I don't know. I'd really hate to go to a show and not be able to see, a huge variety of all these amazing animals. I mean, it's especially where I'm coming from with the big snakes. I love them. I love seeing the retics. I love seeing the anacondas, the big animals, and they really helped us out with being able to still have those and still be able to sell those. We're still fighting all the time for everything else.
Look at the headway we've made with genetics. Look at the things that we're learning just from keeping these animals. For instance, the monitors we keep. I think we've learned more about the captive monitors and their behavior, things that you'll never see in the wild. And now that their habitat is disappearing, I think it's a means of protecting them. So having them in captivity is a means of protecting them.
Well, I definitely support USARK because they advocate for our rights as animal keepers in general. Regardless if it's an exotic animal or not, they come for the stuff that people don't really care about, and then they'll just keep going for more and more different things. USARK's pretty much the only one that advocates for our opinions and position on reptiles. So
it's better for the animals. It's better for the animals in the wild that we can captive breed them. So if you've got captive bred non-native animals, it gives everybody an opportunity to learn about them and keep some really interesting pets. So without the power of a group, you're really nowhere.
We care a lot about the kids here. That's what our passion is. So that's the future. When I see little kids get joy of it and stuff like that, that's what touches us here. Seeing the kids run around and enjoy the animals and don't want to see it disappear.
I feel that they do a very good job of helping us be able to keep our animals and help us with the bad lawmakers that do not support us.
It's extremely important. I mean, we wouldn't be sitting here today if it wasn't for USARK. The government's always trying to come after our animals. They're always trying to ban stuff. It's a revolving circle that comes around every year, and state by state, even on a small basis, they're always trying to take stuff away from us. The only reason we're still here right now is because of USARK. So we owe everything to them.
Well, it's support. We got to support what we're here to do. Everyone's here for the same reason. We all have to band together. We all have to contribute if we want to keep this for our future, for our kids, and for ourselves, really.
Can't think of anyone else putting more work into, helping us out.
A lot of the stuff I never would have heard. A lot of it, I wouldn't have heard any of it, if it wasn't for USARK. So I'm always, shocked at some of the legislation that they're introducing, and it just seems like, they sneak it in with, other things and try to hide it, and USARK finds it and lets us know. So
unfortunately, in the general population, the whole snake phobia thing is very, very common. That's based on lack of education. And so having an advocate and political lobby like USARK is going to be our best hope in fighting and combating that kind of anti-reptile legislation. And if we're going to continue to have an industry, we have to support USARK. Whether you're a small breeder, whether you're a pet owner, whether you're a large-scale breeder, any part of the industry or the hobby, we all have to do our part to support USARK.
Well, somebody's going to fight for what we're doing here, right? So it's definitely important.
If we can't have the peace of mind that this has got a long-term trajectory and that we can invest in something that has a future, then there's that much more anxiety in the process than what it should be. I mean, you're already going to be anxious starting something new like this. So dealing with the people who are fighting the fight to protect our rights to have the animals, it's infinitely valuable for not just so that we can keep having them, but so we can have the peace of mind while we continue to have them.
It actually would remove all of my ability to spread my childhood wonderment to my children and their children. So that's what it comes down to me for supporting USARK, is I want them to have that same wow moment that I did seeing my first garter snakes and then keeping my first xenopus frog. I want them to have that same wonderment and never have to worry about them, going without getting to actually see a gecko in their home, that they can only see it at a zoo, or even worse, not at all.
In a book.
Yeah.
Because that's the only place they're left.
We wouldn't be able to be here without USARK. It's super important. We do everything we can to raise money for the auctions. I want to use my skills as an artist to help them as much as I can, because we wouldn't have this industry. We wouldn't have, what we'd be able to do with zoos and conservation work without everything that they're doing with, making sure they're going through legislation and seeing what's being passed in the bill. So it's very important, and we're super grateful.
What's important to me, we all have to do this, or we're going to lose what we love the most. I don't know, I've had the kids at the table today, and the way they light up when they look at the animals. Could you imagine to not be able to do that with the younger generation that's coming up? These are things that we've always had, as we were always blessed to be able to have these animals, and to take it away would be taking a part of these kids, as far as a little bit of their development. And I don't know, they just mean too much. And what USARK does is one of the biggest major supports, the only thing that we have that's fighting for us, and we really need to push. We got to push, we got to come together, and the sky's the limit.
USARK is why we're here. If they don't do what they do, they're going to make everything illegal, but you're going to be only able to have very few pets, like cats and dogs and fish. So it's important to support them so that people can support us.
USARK means everything because of the fact that they come up with the stupid laws, and they're the ones that catch it. Nobody else is catching it. We'd be screwed without them. And that's all I gotta say. That's all you need to know about USARK, right?
USARK fights for everything that we try to work for. They support us. They fight any law that tries to prohibit us from breeding these beautiful animals. It's misunderstood, and they set the record straight. USARK is our #1 supporter.
It's so important right now because I've got a 2-year-old son who is just getting into the hobby. And without USARK, I strongly feel that he won't have this hobby to look forward to in the future.
They're the only people doing it. They're the only people that care. They're the only people that are actually putting in the work and using the money properly with good people behind it that are actually reptile people. They look for the right people to do the job, not just legal people, but people that love snakes, and that's special.
Without them, we wouldn't be able to fight what we're doing, and we wouldn't be able to ship what we have, so it's good, helpful, and appreciate everything they do.
Without USARK's protection and help for fighting for our rights as reptile keepers, we as educators can't go out there to the general public and expose them to threatened endangered species and even animals within the pet hobby that may need a little bit more help on that spectrum. So USARK is fighting for our rights as animal keepers, but it's also helping conservation with many species all throughout the world.
USARK and all of the hard work that they do so that we can keep our animals in captivity and just allow us to have that connection with nature. Without USARK, we wouldn't have those connections with those animals, and that's the most important thing.
Because if USARK doesn't protect us, then we won't really have a hobby to be involved with anymore. Any government entity, they always try to become bigger rather than smaller, and it's our job to watch out for not only our generation in this hobby, but the next one. If you ever needed some reason to support USARK, you have to understand that if we don't, it's all in jeopardy. really, and that's not hyperbole, that's real.
I don't know how to fight legislation and all that. The fact that there's people in our hobby that's their area of expertise and they're willing to do that and devote themselves and everything else is incredible to me. So, we'll always support it, of course.
We need somebody standing out there for us, and I will always stand with them and do everything I can to support them financially, and we appreciate what they're doing.
You've got to have an organization that will help to educate the layperson that has no idea or understanding what the industry is all about and what it means to protect the rights. So absolutely essential that US ARK is successful, and we're fully committed and engaged to help support it.
US ARK's here to protect small business owners, entrepreneurs from, unfair legislation, that's going to pretty much just destroy their business. I mean, Florida, you see livelihood getting taken away over the last 2 years like nothing. No scientific backing, no real, any kind of, even legal backing, anything. Most of the bans that are coming out are unconstitutional. And, US ARK, from legal fees and just the small business owners coming together to band together to say, hey, this isn't right, this isn't fair, and that you have to stand up against organizations that are looking to put you out of business because they don't believe in what you do.
Listen, US ARK is fighting for our rights. So if we don't donate, everybody helps out a little bit, a couple dollars here, a couple dollars there, a little bit of effort, sharing any type of posts. Because if we don't do this, guess what? These channels for reptile stuff, they're all gonna be gone. So we have to work together, do the best you can. Let's kick the government's ass, and so we can keep doing what we want to do, okay?
US ARK is important to me as the everyday reptile keeper because how am I supposed to know what's going on? The biggest thing for me is knowing the details that these bills are being trying to pass in the Senate and all these kinds of things trying to ban reptiles. And I don't know how to find those things out. So that's one of the biggest things that US ARK does is they let us know so that we can be a voice and back them as they fight for our rights.
They protect us from frivolous lawsuits that can take away basically the hobby. I mean, the things that they can, undermine us with. And, we were talking about last night at the auction, but they can throw these bills to try to get passed in with these other laws. And if we didn't have the guys from US ARK, our lawyers and things like that, looking at those things, that would happen all the time. And without those people looking into those things for us as our industry, we wouldn't have an industry. We'd be dead in the water, right? And basically come down to that.
It's the only organization that we have that actually fights specifically and only for the reptile industry. Before US ARK, there was nobody. There was PJAC that helps, but PJAC is obviously supporting.
It's supporting the whole pet industry.
We
have the US ARK is the focus.
US ARK focuses strictly on reptile-related issues, full time, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. That's all they do.
Without it, we'd be gone because they're constantly passing legislation or trying to. Without us out there trying to stop these new laws from coming into place, we'd be gone. The animal rights in this, they have $400 million a year in income. We've got about $3 million a year to fight it with. So we're doing a pretty good job with what we have. But without that, we'd probably already be out of business.
US ARK's important because it protects all of my customers, and therefore it protects my business too. If it weren't for US ARK, there'd be nobody watching out for people trying to introduce legislation that would take away our freedoms to have these animals we love.
I think the US ARK is critical at this point in time. I also think it's critical that the museums, the zoos, academia in general starts getting their membership together, because if they don't, pretty soon all the work we're trying to do will be nothing but anathema. We won't be able to touch anything anymore. It has interfered with conservation left, right, and sideways. People don't understand the fact that these radical groups, anarchist groups, PETA, HSUS, and so on, are getting in the way of conservation beyond anything that people can believe. They do more damage than any 3 oil companies. And people just cannot see this. We need to do significant education with the general public, but Phil Goss has been the first man in that position who has done the job and done it right. But people have to wake up and start not only just supporting US ARK, but getting the word out to these other groups, these other satellite groups that need to be brought under this umbrella. As I said, zoos, museums, universities, they need to belong. Otherwise, everything we do as people of science is going to get burned, absolutely burned, by people who are radicals, by people who have no understanding of animals, and they don't really care about animals. we live animals day in and day out. We're nothing but conservation. The only animals we sell is every once in a while, we have a surplus animal or something. We're in conservation. That's what we do. That's all we do. And I spend more than a third of my time fighting bad legislation that keeps us from doing the work that we should be doing. That's a terrible waste of my time and a terrible waste of effort, and it puts everyone on the precipice of falling right off of a very bad cliff.
Thank you so much for everyone who made a video and said what USARK meant to them. To everyone watching, please hit the subscribe button and help share this channel. Thank you.
What do you wish that your representatives in the government knew?